Well, there's an uprising of Labor MPs who disagree with AUKUS and who want the Labor government to recognise a Palestinian state at the upcoming Labor Party conference in Brisbane next month. Former Senator Doug Cameron warns the hard left could attack the Prime Minister over the nuclear submarines, and he also is calling for a timeline for the recognition of Palestine. There are reports in The Australian today and other papers that the Prime Minister could strike a deal whereby he agrees to recognise a Palestinian state if the Labor MPs leave AUKUS alone. Well, Michael Shoebridge is the Director of the Defence Strategy and National Security Program at the Australian Strategic Policy Institute, and he joins me now. Michael, welcome to the program. Look, this is described by Greg Sheridan in his column today as it would be a serious folly if Labor were to pass a motion at its national conference calling for the destruction of AUKUS. What's your response to this?
Well, Sharri, the government needs to prove to the Americans and to the UK that we're more all in on AUKUS than either of those governments are. Right now in Washington, 2 Republican congresspeople are saying they won't pass AUKUS submarine legislation unless the Biden administration puts more money into submarine production there. If there was even a sniff that the Australian government wasn't absolutely committed to AUKUS, including by mismanagement at the Labor Party conference, that would send a shockwave into the deal that is not in our interests.
And what about this suggestion in the papers today? Because it happened already at one state conference, but now there's suggestions that it will happen at the national conference, that the PM could do some deal with the Labor left where he agrees to the recognition of Palestinian territories or recognition of a Palestinian state in return for, the Labor left leaving AUKUS alone. How damaging might this be for Australia's relations with Israel?
Well, Sharri, I don't think that kind of horse trading is the way to deal with this issue. The Prime Minister needs to show leadership, not just of the government, but of the Labor Party. So they can have all the debates they like in the Labor Party conference, but he has to show he's in charge. And really, a far more tangible thing than arm wrestling Labor Party delegates at the Congress is getting started on key work that the AUKUS submarine deal needs, like where the East Coast base is going to be. So leadership and tangible action on AUKUS is what the Prime Minister needs to demonstrate. I
just mentioned Greg Sheridan. He's the foreign editor at The Australian. I mentioned his column a moment ago. Well, he has this quite interesting observation in his column today. He says the Albanese government is the most left-wing Labor administration since Gough Whitlam. It is delivering bucket loads of policy to the left on industrial relations, climate change, welfare, tax, every form of identity politics, support for far-reaching constitutional change, etc. He says, but for the left, too much is never enough. Do you think the Prime Minister needs to stand even stronger when it comes to national security? Because by and large, on national security, so far, he has been continuing the former coalition government's policies.
Yes, Sharri, I think there's a stream in the Labor Party side of politics that is deeply anti-American, and clearly it's anti-nuclear. And both of those streams are at work here around AUKUS. It's absolutely in Australia's national security interests to have the AUKUS deal succeed and for the current government to lead a public debate on that, not run away from it. And the idea of trading off a relationship with Israel to manage the political showmanship at a Labor Party conference is just simply wrong from a national interest point of view.
And I'm just quoting what one, Victorian Labor source said categorically a similar motion would be moved in Brisbane next month to trade off, to have those two deals traded against each other. Very worrying. Michael Shoebridge, thank you very much for your time this evening.